Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Channel Vision webinar featuring Message Pro. I'm Gerald Baldino from Channel Vision, and today we'll be discussing how to add messaging to your cloud-delivered PBX or UCaaS service. This webinar will review the available types of messaging solutions on the market. Our speaker today will be Message Pro Chairman and CEO Greg Smith. If you have any questions during the webinar, please submit them through the Q&A box located at the bottom of the Zoom platform. A question and answer session will commence at the end of the presentation. At this point, we'll ask you to fill out the brief survey, and then I'll turn over the presentation to Greg to begin. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Greg Smith, the CEO of Message Pro, and what I want to cover today is really how much communications has changed in the past 10 years, where it's sort of headed, and particularly with the importance of messaging. For those of you who are probably my age, it used to be when you wanted to contact somebody, you just picked up the phone and call them. Today, that's not really viewed as a positive thing. You actually make an appointment by sending a message. And most people, whether they're connecting with call centers or connecting with businesses for various needs, they still want to use phone or a video collaboration web meeting for in-depth conversations. But for routine matters, information, hours of operation, balances, things like that, messaging is by far much preferred. As a matter of fact, 80% of consumers in a recent survey viewed businesses that text enable their business phone numbers as a very positive step. So what this presentation is going to design to do is to show you a little bit how to do that. What are some things to consider in selecting a provider, or if you wanted to try to build it yourself, and what are the ramifications of those things. I also think texting, while it's probably one of the hottest things going on in telecom today, is also really a subset of businesses' overall needs to message more effectively with their customers, patients, clients, and whatnot. And I'm going to give you an example of what we're doing in healthcare to give you an idea how really layered this can be as it goes. But I think the whole point being is, if you're offering voice services and equipment for handling voice, you really need to be strongly considering and moving into the text space. So why now? About a year ago, without getting into a ton of details, a year and a half ago now, through industry pressure, some from ZipWhip and others, but a lot from the Fortune 1000 who are interested in moving to texting. For example, airlines with your seat assignments, things like that. As short codes have gotten to be very burdensome and whatnot, and businesses have a lot of equity in their phone numbers, particularly local businesses, there's a lot of pressure to open up landlines or VoIP lines to be able to register and to be textable. So that has now occurred. There's the very cool part about this is texting does not mean if, for example, if you use Message Pro, you do not necessarily have to change the voice provider or install any equipment. It is a net number type of configuration option that we do that registers that phone number for text on a texting gateway. So that's what makes we've been a few percent are even aware they can use texting outside the Fortune 1000. So it's a great new business opportunity, and it works. 75% or more of phone calls today are not answered. 93% of 800 numbers that are sent to a consumer's cell phone are not answered. They're viewed as spam or whatnot. And email, while it's free, has a pretty low open rate, and it depends on the type of consumer, whether they're active email users or not. The news on texting is vitally different. 95% of texts are read within 15 minutes. And texting can also be integrated into business processes like email. Saying, hey, this is a great way to send out specials, market to various things. But what you'll find
Hey, Greg,
is,
this is Gerald. I'm going to jump in here and just ask you to back up a few seconds, as I think we had a bit of an audio glitch. So if you could back up about 20 seconds or so, just to give our listeners a chance to catch up.
okay.
Thank you.
Shall I start?
Yep, if you could just resume that from about a few seconds ago, that would be a perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, just to quickly summarize, I think every business and you as a service provider to businesses really need to adopt texting. And turning to the next slide, the first thoughts about texting are, hey, broadcast text messages about dinner reservations or a special on this or a special on that. And that's certainly a valid use case and one that is used quite a bit by our customers. But really, it's much more than that. From contractors using MMS, for example, to take pictures of start and stop on daily workflows. We have a large McDonald's franchisee who uses texting to send lift tickets to employees in order to encourage them to work for McDonald's for rides back and forth. Anything, basically the short story is, I think, is that any business that deals with consumers is a 100%.
Hey, this is Jeff. I'm also from Message Pro, but Greg's audio is cutting in and out. So, Greg, I don't know if you have a phone or something you could use to call in, but
I'll tell you what, Jeff, I'm going to have to turn it over to you, I think. So why don't you go ahead?
Okay, let me just change around some things here real quick and get my screen shared so I can do this for everybody. It'll take me just a moment there.
I'm in Italy, unfortunately, on a trip, and so I think my internet connection is pretty poor.
Greg, if you can just keep going while I get myself ready to join here.
Anyway, so the cool part about texting is there's a immense number of needs for it, and it's very simple to deploy. So our view of this is that any messaging, anybody who's providing voice services, or really any set of communication services to small, medium business and large business for that matter, really should be talking to all their clients about texting. And what you'll find with some industries is that they actually need other messaging solutions. And I'm going to cover healthcare at the end of this session a little bit, why they may need 4 or 5 different messaging solutions. The good news is you can do a very simple pricing model that works for small and medium business. You can control the pricing. It's very inexpensive, but you'll also have the mass users will get as in true of any communication service, can demand better pricing, and you can still make a very good margin at it, but it will be different looking than what a small, medium business on the corner will pay for texting compared to a large company. The great part is too, is it's pretty simple using a service like Message Pro to integrate that completely within your normal billing and service configurations. Again, here's the very cool part about business messaging services using texting. You don't have to change the voice provider. There's no equipment to install. It's as easy as signing up for a Yahoo email account, and takes just about as long. It takes about a minute or two, a few minutes, basically, for us to flick the number, put it on the messaging gateway, and get people operational. All we need to do is send a user ID and password. There's mobile apps that support it, so businesses can use it not only on PCs and Macs, but also can use it on tablets, smartphones, and remotely. And that in itself is a great benefit for businesses. Instead of having a salesperson using their personal cell phone number to interact with clients and prospects, they now can use the business phone numbers. All of that's logged, all of that's recorded, and is actionable by the business. So now let's turn to where business messaging gets complex. While this concept is simple, there are regulatory and legal requirements in how it's configured and operated. And I'm going to cover a few of those now. So what we do, and what you should look for with any provider of texting to business, is, hey, how easy and how effectively can they activate business lines? How can they check to make sure that those business phone numbers are textable and work and are going to be set up properly? There's multiple SMS, MMS gateways out there, and most providers only offer you access to a single gateway. What we do is that's probably in large part because they own the gateway. We've had our own gateway, but we also, today, primarily use other gateways. And the reason you want to do that is the gateways have different performance. They may get in a SNIT with a major carrier like T-Mobile or some like. And so for us, what we can do, part of what we provide and other good providers, is the ability to shift between gateways if need be, but also to strictly monitor their performance to make sure they're delivering texts on time, you're getting all of them received, they're flagged properly in that case. The third and the most visible part and important to users is having a user interface that fits with how they work. So as I mentioned earlier, you need a good user interface for any PC or Mac user. About 80–90% of our texts that run across our network are PC based, but it's nice to have the apps and
All right, so as this is Jeff again, as Greg was saying. Oh, you're back. Keep going.
Am I back? You also may want to consider an API interface, and providers like us provide one, because it's easy for management systems, instead of simply kicking out an email, to access Message Pro and send out texts. The fourth part, and probably it will never really totally be appreciated by your clients, but with the rules around texting, you have quite a few snags where a client could get in trouble. For example, sending out too many texts on a local telephone number in an hour or a day. More importantly, if someone types stop and says they don't want to receive text from that phone number, if the business continued to send texts to that phone number, they could be liable for fines up to $1,500 an instance. So providers like us, when we see these customers say stop, we will block those phone numbers and not allow that customer to resend text to that phone number without getting first affirmation from the end user if they want to receive those. Then what you need to do is, if you think about texting today in your own instance, if you use it as you use it personally, really texting doesn't have any kind of concept of administration, reporting, how to use search messages. It's just a series of bubbles. So what we have built, and other good providers, are a set of tools that make businesses workable. So your sales number can be monitored monitored by multiple people, while a personal DID of a C-level executive may only be viewable by the C-level person. As I mentioned quickly earlier, automation and APIs are a huge opportunity. You're seeing software providers recognizing that they need to include texting. Message Pro and other providers provide that gateway, so it's not unusual for a business, a Message Pro client, to use an API for core things, but also have users being able to send messages, send and receive messages ad hoc, just like they do email. So take a look at that. Make sure that whatever provider you line up with can provide both things. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a couple quick things, and I'm just going to mention these. And if you want to get it more in depth, please feel free to. There's a lot of stuff on the web, but also we're happy to help you. I think everyone understands permission-based texting. What you need to do there is never let your customer buy a list and send out texts unsolicited. They need to have some kind of relationship with the client, at least be an applicant or a prospect. But the idea of buying 1 million cell phone numbers and saying, I'm going to send a text to everybody, first of all, the carriers will shut that number down. Second, what they'll do is you're really potentially inviting lawsuits from the plaintiff crowd. And it's really not been a big problem, but it's something to watch for and keep your clients from doing that. There's two types of texting. One's called P2P, that's person to person. The other one's automated to person. And what this means really is local numbers, when we text enable those, can support some level of automated to person. So, but it's much better to use a set of local numbers and 800 numbers to fit a wide variety of needs for your clients. Fortunately, using Message Pro and other providers, it's not a problem. We can help you configure that best for the business. And it's something that's easily workable. In general, person to person or local numbers, you can only send a couple hundred messages per hour from the local number, whereas on the 800 number, you can send up to 3 to 5 a second. So what most businesses do is use 800 numbers for larger list type applications and P2P for others. But we also have 70% of our customers who don't really have 800 numbers. Local numbers work just fine for them. So what you need to do is have a partner that's keeping up with all these rules, configuring the service to where customers, your end user business clients, are not going to run into problems, and keep things moving. And the good news is a lot of this is changing. So while I'm talking quite a bit about texting, what you can see too is the explosive growth in secure messaging. Many of you can think about it's largely used in healthcare. It's an absolute dead requirement almost there, also for financial services. But people are also looking at that, and that is app-to-app type messaging. That's for everyone in the company. It's usually oriented towards staff work, but it's a growing business too that you should also think about including in your solution set. So let's turn to the meat of this. It goes pretty quickly. It's much simpler than you might think. You're sitting out there and saying, this guy's talked for 15 minutes on why you have to have texting or messaging. Hey, I'm back here running my voice business and what other things I provide for my clients. How do I do this? So luckily, it's pretty simple. And there's some things I think you should think about when you pick a partner to help you do that. First of all, you want it to be branded your service in almost all cases, if you possibly can. We do both things. We have complete white label branding for partners, but in our own view, and we also sell Message Pro as a standalone service and are happy to work on those as well. However, if I'm an ITSP and providing local and 800 numbers and phones to my small, medium business customers, you really want to make this part of their phone bill. You want to make it a branded service, and you want to make it feel like it's the third leg on the stool. I have local, LD, and texting. So I've already viewed, and we have actually built, and others, I'm sure if they're not there yet, will be there soon, can provide you a service that you can simply plug into that meets all these requirements. So on pricing, there's been quite a bit of simple, bundled pricing using like $29, $59, $49. We have really found that it's almost easier to take a voice type approach with a simple, for small and medium customers, mainly because they don't know how many messages they'll use, to use a pretty low per text rate and a low price per number rate and a low user rate. We use $4.95 per phone number, $3.95 for each registered user, and 2 cents a message. We don't distinguish between local and 800 numbers. We don't distinguish between MMS or SMS messaging, and we keep it pretty simple. If you get into larger clients, they actually know a little bit more about this, and there you'll have to go to discrete pricing and a custom pricing model. But your partner, whoever's providing this for you, with you, should be able to accommodate both standard pricing models. And like what we do is, while we have our standard pricing, some of our ITSPs price it differently. It's not a problem. And then the ability to handle custom large volume users. So the good news is as I mentioned earlier, I think this is a big land grab, meaning that businesses who are looking for texting and those who don't know it's available, the beauty of this solution, if it's properly deployed, is that you can instantly turn on customers, just like setting up a Yahoo email account. They basically don't need to do anything except provide a permission, the phone numbers, and the users, and in minutes you can have them set up and operating. It's a lucrative business. It's not a big volume business, meaning that a business will start off first, if say they have 7 voice trunks, 10 voice trunks with you, they may only text enable 1 or 2 phone numbers. And as I'll show you in a minute, the average billing is say $40 to $100 for a small, medium business. A larger business with multiple branches can get higher, but it should be at least a 50% margin business to you. I think it's pretty clear that businesses moving forward will have a lot of text and maybe declining voice or flat voice. But there's a lot of benefits to businesses in using text, mainly in the consumer's acceptance of using text instead of voice calling to interact with a business on routine needs. So here's a quick example. These are, say this ITSP partner of ours has, say, around 75 clients. A small business may start off with 1 phone number, text enabled, or 2. They tend to grow over time. The messages volume will grow too. But as you can see, it's $1,000, almost roughly $1,000 a month in annual income per year for simply adding texting in a 5-minute job that to get them set up and running. It's more than that, I know. You have to talk to the customer and the like. But the point being is it's quite lucrative and actually will bind your customers more closely to your business. So I mentioned 2, and I want to just breeze through this sort of quickly. I think text messaging is really just the start of how businesses need to adopt messaging. Most businesses are pretty well set up these days on handling incoming calls, managing a website, and using email solicitation or email for a variety of things. It doesn't really fit a lot of industries because their needs are a lot more than that. So our own business, we have about 40% of our business is in healthcare. And I want to just quickly go through a few slides here to show you what the opportunities are, not just for healthcare, but I think a lot of these same principles will be applicable to other industries. So what we offer healthcare are, the texting that we just covered extensively, secure messaging for every staff member. We have what we call interactive messaging, which is when you want to, when a healthcare organization using our services wants to interact with a patient and collect data, we can do that from voice or text, actually email too, but we do mostly voice and text. And that can be, weight loss programs, congestive heart failure, patient monitoring, but it could also be things like, hey, you still have money in your health savings account. Do you want to schedule an appointment? And so things that used to be sort of nagging telephone calls can be handled with messaging. We do a thing called multi-factor texting. I won't dive into it here, but it's a way to use typical texting and also provide confidential information by launching a secure web session. We also do appointment scheduling and cloud fax. So here's the interesting thing about a typical medical office, and I think you might look at your own businesses and think about this, but in this particular segment, our voice revenues per physician may be, if we were providing the phone service, say in the $50 to $80 a month, including the physician and a few staff members. If you looked at this messaging component per physician, it's another $200 a month, maybe more. And it's growing rapidly and is critical need. So the point being is if you deploy these messaging solutions, wrap them around what you provide already for voice, you're not going to see any churn out of this customer base. You are now so integrated into their business processes that it's hugely attractive and not only profitable, but long-term recurring revenue. So as I mentioned, these are the 4 or 5 services we provide to healthcare providers. They're pretty simply priced. Message Pro Secure is an app and also PC based. We do automated telephone calls and automated text for interactive. We're adding an app. And so the key part is what we are focusing on is that telephone calls or emails. Emails really don't work well for healthcare organizations because most consumers just don't use email like business people do. And so what we've built, and I think what you should look for, are providers that can take broad horizontal communication services, but also configure those for end users and specific verticals that can make you the lead. And while I spent a lot of time here on this healthcare part, it's one of the more exciting things we're looking at are local governments who need a lot of this kind of thing. There's a lot of verticals that need this same set of capabilities, configured slightly different, but that's our business. And what we do is we work with partners who are providing the voice to be their back end. We don't need to be branded. And I think there's a whole new business category for people like us in helping clients out there that deliver end user solutions that meet a diverse set of needs. So with that, I will shut up and we can take some questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Greg. That was awesome. We can jump into the Q&A section here. We got some for you. Here's a question that came in. What does an agent have to do to get started with Message Pro? And what is the onboarding process like?
We can, well, an agent, we define an agent and white label only whether you're going to use the Message Pro brand or have your own brand. But basically, it's quite simple. Let me take the white label one first. If you're a provider of services to end users and you'd like to white label our service, all I need is a logo, an email address, and to send our billing records to, and then some login stuff for you guys to help order. And frankly, there's no reason you can't be up and running in an afternoon and selling product with your own branded version of Message Pro. For an agent, the exact same thing. It's a simple agreement. We give you the access to marketing materials that you can rebrand or use our brand. And we have a tracking system that tracks it end to end. And it's pretty simple because really what we're looking at is the phone numbers that we text enable. We link those to our partners. We track all the activity and billing for that. We provide the billing information and we can, in the agent world, we will do the billing. In the reseller world, we'll provide the billing data. And when the billing data comes to you, you can use it, rate it as we rate it, or you can re-rate it if you'd like to change a different price. Our wholesale rates are typically around 50% of what our suggested retail rates are.
Okay. Now, do you provide any vertical specific marketing programs?
We actually have on our website, if for anybody who wants to go look, in Message Pro, at www.messagepro.com, you'll see a solutions pages. So what we continue to do is, it's actually sort of fun, frankly, is people tell us how they're using texting, and we'll create a white paper or at least a marketing piece or a description of what they're doing. We probably have 25 to 30 examples already up there, and they range the map from, you know, a property management company who has, 20 properties saying, hey, this texting is the best thing that's ever happened because I can get to my residence, to healthcare, to car dealers. Really, you can almost get too caught up in what the specifics are. It's basically any business that deals with consumers. And sometimes the consumers are clients, but sometimes consumers are employees. And so if you have, not every employee gets an email address. If they're mobile employees, texting sure beats getting to them than email because they're going to see it and they're going to act on it. And so I honestly think that the question is probably framed a little differently as you think about it. Who isn't a candidate for texting? I can think of not many. It has to be a pure business to business play where everybody is fully synced on email and is responsive to email. And as we all know, that's increasingly not the case.
Okay, now, pretty big opportunity out there. What, personally, what vertical are you most excited about? Where do you see the biggest opportunity here?
Our biggest opportunity for Message Pro is working with the ITSP agent community who is already providing voice to small and medium business to now add text to it. So that's the most important part for Message Pro. But as far as a certain vertical goes, healthcare is 20% of the US economy. It's growing rapidly. There's a lot of demands on healthcare providers to reduce readmission risk, for example, to lower healthcare costs, provide remote patient management. And for any of you who out there who are working in healthcare, who have healthcare clients, I think you'll be positively, and we're happy to work with you on that and helping them understand what the solutions are. But this is a godsend for healthcare organizations. If you think about an office where a nurse is being asked to do more and more things, but the office is crazy busy, using automated messaging tools like we provide is not only less expensive, but it also makes sure it gets done. It complies with all the paperwork requirements. So long, short answer is I think there's going to be a lot of people have the opportunity to make a lot of money in healthcare communications and actually do a lot of good for physicians and patients and for all of us as taxpayers in helping reduce costs. Most hospital readmissions are avoidable. Chronic care management is a huge cost driver, and it's been proven. We have clients like Humana and others, so it's outside the scope of this presentation, but if anyone has healthcare and has strong healthcare interests, get a hold of Message Pro. We're happy to help you. It's a strong focus of ours.
Now, again, with such a good opportunity at hand, what's the best way for agents to spark this conversation? How do you get this going? What's a good opener into a conversation?
Usually, making them aware that the capability exists. Say, first of all, you don't have to say much. What will happen is, what I would do is say, hey, Bob, you may not know about this, but you can now text enable your business phone numbers. So your billboard that has 813-835-9982, you're a State Farm agent, hey, you can text enable that phone number and interact by text. They immediately, almost everybody immediately grasp it, that they could use this for, and they usually think of a particular instance right away. Hey, I need to send the office being closed because of weather, or hey, I'd like to send notices out, your bills, you're late and your insurance is going to be terminated if you don't pay within 10 days. Click here to connect. You don't have to go far, because here's the reality I think we all know as business people. Outbound telephone calling does not work. When you have people with 90%, 80% plus drop rates, meaning that they don't answer the phone and that voicemail is not effective and phone tag, but they all know texting works. So they may first think about millennials. They may first think about, the younger crowd that they serve or their younger employees. But the reality is, grandmothers and everyone else are using texting too, mainly just in response to their kids, texting them things. But texting it doesn't really take much. So I think you have to say, the first one you want to do is say, hey, there's a solution available and I can provide it for you.
Here's a question. Are a lot of customers using your capabilities for live customer support?
Yes, the increasingly, first of all, the customer has to know they can use it, obviously. So the where we're seeing it, and I'm going to answer this a little distinctly, is two ways. First example is we've had more than probably 25% of our customers, when they text enable their phone numbers, before they send out a text themselves, are already receiving text. They'll be surprised. They'll go, oh my gosh, I had no idea people were trying to text me. So there's a certain part of the population out there whose strong preference is, if I want to get a hold of that business, I want to text them. So you'll see that's on the inbound side. On the outbound side, obviously, we have lists and we do things. So say, for example, the past due list of rent payments and things like that. Hey, they can quickly create a list, send a broadcast text out to the 120 people. It makes any call center a ton more efficient to have a text go out to someone, have them click to call back to your service desk, because any inbound call, the person already knows why you want to talk, why the business wants to talk to them. And the second person, and they may have the information they need to settle the matter one way or the other. So any contact center that is dealing with consumers really has to adopt texting right off the bat. And many of you all out there may watch Twilio. That's Twilio's primary business, working with the Fortune 1000 in their contact centers. every Fortune 1000 company is really moving aggressively into texting. And it's nice to be having them support all the initiatives we need to do to make texting more widespread. But the real benefit is small, medium businesses will see just huge productivity improvements. It's a lot easier to have agents and people at help desk when they're handling inbound calls instead of having to just pick up the phone and call people when they know 8 out of 10 of them aren't going to answer.
Okay, thanks. Here's a question that came in from a hosted PBX provider. Can you enable any of their numbers? They're using several different carriers for numbers right now.
Yeah, here's the cool part. The voice, if wherever the voice is sent does not affect the texting. So if I have voice attached to level 3, or I have it to Vonage or Voyant or whoever it may be, the text assignment or the link, I always think of it as a number attribute. So what happens is we go in when we provision the phone number for texting. What we do is we flick that bit and say, hey, that's a Message Pro gateway. I want to send all text to and from that phone number to the Message Pro gateway. It does not affect voice, doesn't have anything to do with equipment. So the long and short of it is, there's, like everything in telecom, there's a few exceptions and you have to work through those. 98% of them will flow through without any human intervention. 1 or 2% will have to sometimes supply an LOA, things like instance where it was a huge headache to get text-enabled phone numbers.
Sorry, could you just back up a few seconds there? I think we lost you again. The audio just got in.
Only a few instances has texting proven to be problematic for setting up on provisioning. So the short answer to the long question is that, yes, we can support multiple carriers. The voice provider of the carrier does not determine the text provider. So for any ITSP who works with multiple voice providers or a single voice provider, we really shouldn't have any problems in setting up texting to work for them.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions? There's still a minute here to get them in. So we'll just hang out for just a brief moment.
And if not, let me just close by saying, if anyone want to ask questions, that's fine. What we are is a resource for our clients, so they don't have to be texting experts. And then we write software that helps keep people using texting in the best possible business practices, and also complying to the greatest extent possible that we can help them with on regulatory fronts. It's a little bit of the wild, wild west. The industry is shifting, and the good news is that means texting is going to get more and more prevalent, more and more important, and more opportunities to make money with it. But I think whether you pick Message Pro or go somewhere else, you really need to pick a partner that will help you navigate that, unless you really want to take on a big project yourself. There's a lot of legal, there's some tech, obviously not so easy technical requirements. And what we've said is, hey, why don't we be the experts in this? Let our customers white label or use Message Pro, support their billing processes. As far as their customers are concerned, that's provided by, ABC company ITSP. And that's what we're here to do. And we look forward to working with clients. I'm not really aware of anybody who has taken this approach like we have. Applicable for small, medium business and larger ones too, but that's the gig.
Okay, Here's another question. What does the interface look like? Roger has a client that is scheduling all their next field appointments with a phone at the front desk.
There's a PC interface. I could, let me see if I can bring it up here. So this is my personal cell phone, or this is my personal office number. And as you can see, there's an inbox. Every phone number has its own inbox. And I'll see all my new messages and bubbles like I normally do. And if someone wants to, if I want to write a new text, I can actually put one right here. So we let you input contacts. I'm sending a message to myself. I can attach a MMS, any type of picture file. I can attach it so it can send local and 800. And what happens when I hit send from my PC, over the internet, that message has gone up to our messaging gateway. We have now sent it out as a text, and I will receive that on my cell phone. And if I reply, obviously it comes back the other way. What we've built for businesses is we've said, hey, what you really need are more than just simple texting capabilities. So the first thing you want to be able to do is import contacts from any source using CSV files. All we really need is first name, last name, and cell phone numbers. Businesses need what we call auto replies. So when someone sends a text, if they're closed, it's easy to send a reply back that says our office hours are so-and-so, et cetera. The person who asked about the contact center, these next two features are really very powerful, are keywords and canned comments. Keywords can be things like menu, hours, location. So a user you can have an ad and it says for more information or for pricing, text price to 813-579-1001. We also log so businesses have a lot of industries have compliance requirements. So as you can see, we have a real-time log on here, and you can see where, hey, that message I just sent, and it's unerasable. I can't erase it as a user. And so school systems and state governments and local governments who have sunshine laws and things like that, this is a great tool for them because they don't have that today and they need to use texting, but because of regulatory requirements or legal requirements, they've been reluctant to do so. We have a great set of reports. Here you can this is all real time again. You can set a budget for how much the account has. I can see where I am month to date. I can see most frequently called numbers. I can do all sorts of things. So what sort of quickly, I know that this isn't necessarily to do a full product demo. What we really said is, hey, an ITSP who's providing a hosted communication service for its clients, hey, it totally manages the voice traffic from end to end. Assigns users, it does this, numbers. Hey, if you're going to do texting, you got to do the same thing. You got to be able to make these kind of assignments, do all the reporting, the logging, provide useful tools, and we're going to keep adding to this. And so while everybody's here, where you see Message Pro Office, our ITSP partners or agents or whoever wants to use their own brand, it'll have their brand right there, and you will not see Message Pro anywhere. So it's very simple to administer, but yet powerful.
Okay, any other questions from attendees? Okay, just a reminder, this recording will be available to download from the registration page following the event. Thank you, Greg, and the Message Pro team for joining us today, and for everybody for attending. We'll catch you next time for the next Channel Vision webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. Take care.
Bye-bye.